Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Hendricks. I have a consultant business and I specialize in leadership capacity training, both in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. And I'm a co-chair. So really glad to be a part of this group, these great women. I love all of the concepts and ideas and businesses. And Rachel Barkus, you're going to be our speaker today. So really excited about that.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me. When I heard about this and received the invitation, I was really excited to be able to share a little bit about me and what I do as a woman in industry or business. Modesto City Schools, I've been trying to figure out, I'm like, am I a business? Am I not? But I really kind of wear both hats within the education world for our district. So thank you for having me. I did put together a little PowerPoint, nothing fancy, but I tend to stay on track better when I have guidance of the PowerPoint. So I will share my screen. And there we go. Okay. So as I was introduced, my name is Rachel Barkus, and I currently serve in the role of Senior Director of Educational Options for Modesto City Schools. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that encompasses as I go through the presentation. But I was informed that I was going to share a little bit about me, my journey, how I got to where I am, and my professional, and a little bit about my personal. So I'm going to start with my personal. I was born and raised in Modesto, born at Doctors Hospital. I attended Sonoma when it was a new school, so I'll date myself there. But back in the 80s, I went to Sonoma Elementary, and then to Lakewood, La Loma, Downey, followed that route. I graduated from Downey, and then I went to a school in Arkansas for a couple of years, and then I transferred to Abilene Christian University in Abilene, Texas. I graduated from there, and I came back home. My whole family lived here, and so I came back after those 4 years, and I started as a substitute at Modesto City Schools. So I literally have served Modesto or been in Modesto City Schools my entire life from the time I was 5, with the exception of 4 years. I did receive my bachelor's degree in human development and family studies and political science. I had a double major in college. At one point, I thought I wanted to be an attorney. And so I went the political science route. My dad's an attorney. My grandfather was an attorney. And then I shifted while I was in college. So I went ahead and got the double major, and I went into human development family studies, thinking maybe marriage and family therapy. But instead, I chose education. My mom was a teacher at Johansen, Modesto High and Downey. My grandmother was an elementary teacher at Rose Avenue in Sonoma. My grandfather was an administrator at Davis High School. So education ran through my family. So really, I think I felt like I had two choices, education or law. So I ended up in education. Both of my sisters are also employed by Modesto City Schools. My younger sister is the principal at Enoch's High School, and then my older sister is an adult ed teacher for Modesto City Schools. So truly, education runs through our blood, and we've lived it, and that's what we know. I did receive my master's degree from Brandman University in educational leadership. I also have my single subject credential in home economics, which is something you don't hear of very often, and my administrative credential. So on top of that, I am the mother of 4. I have a 23-year-old daughter who I get to go watch her walk the stage finally. She graduated from SDSU last year, and with the pandemic, they didn't walk the stage. As everybody knows, graduation has been a big deal, but I get to go down and see her graduate and walk the stage next month. So I'm really excited about that. I have a son and another daughter that are both at Abilene Christian University as well. My daughter graduated from Bayer last year and then chose Abilene, and my son graduated from Downey a few years prior. And then I have a baby, well, she's my baby, 13. So I had quite a spectrum of children over these years as I pursued different opportunities on my professional life. But the balance, I feel like there's always had to be a balance. As women, we face unique challenges in that there are different expectations, I think, societally speaking, and different expectations we put on ourselves. And so figuring out what that balance is, being a mother of four, as well as pursuing different opportunities within my career, has at times been a challenge. And, you know, I always get put in check in some form or fashion as to where I need to put my priorities. Professionally, so I started as a ROP teacher, hourly teacher and substitute, back in 1997. And I taught in the Welfare to Work program. I taught child development, essentially. And it was women that wanted to be paraprofessionals. They were getting their job training. And so that was my first taste of the real world. You know, I'd worked starting at 16 at Chicken Barn, but there was nothing like actually pursuing my profession. So I started doing that, and that was a nice balance because I did have little kids at home and I was only working a couple hours a day. I could balance the two. But as I continued in teaching, I found that I just didn't have as many challenges as I wanted to pursue personally in my professional life. In 2003, I had a long-term sub position. It was my mom's. My mom taught in Education and Child Development Academy at Johansen High School, and I was her long-term sub. She passed away in that year. And so then I was hired to take her position. So that was as a daughter and as a mother, it was really a unique opportunity that provided just not, I wouldn't say closure necessarily, but I was able to be in my mom's presence on a daily basis in her classroom, teaching the curriculum that she had developed. And it was just very, very rewarding, both personally and professionally. I loved this teaching students child development. We had internships at the Child Development Center there at Johansen. And so kids would go down and work with the kids. So we had hands-on practical opportunities. I started doing some curriculum development with the state, facilitating different workshops on curriculum crosswalks, how career technical education really furthers the understanding of academics. And so I started working with the state on some of that curriculum, which expanded my opportunities. And then I just decided that I was ready to leave the classroom. So in 2014, I became an elementary principal, which was a big jump. I had been a high school teacher and then elementary principal all in 1 year. So that was a growing experience for me. My first administrative position was right out of a teaching position. I was at Garrison for a couple of years, learned a lot about people, a lot about families, different dynamics, what our true needs are in education, especially looking at our elementary level and the needs that they have that are unique to the high school level. Having worked in both worlds now, I feel like I have a greater perspective as to where we need to provide more supports in our education world. And a lot of those need to happen at the elementary level. But anyway, that's, you know, I have a philosophy and a bit of a soapbox on that one. But anyway, how I was a site administrator at Garrison, and then I moved into being a site administrator at Beyer High School. My daughter attended Beyer at that time, and so it was really a blessing. Talk about the balance. My daughter would come into my office, you know, at lunchtime. I could go and check on her in her classes, make sure she's paying attention. Sporting events I would supervise. And so it was a great experience to be a part of her life while I was serving as a professional. Then the opportunity to move to district office came up. Having been a career technical education teacher, my goal had always been to eventually be in the position I'm in now. I wanted to have the ability to provide opportunity across our district, not just at one site. And so the position came up and I went through the process, talked to, I guess, all the right people, interviewed, and I became the Senior Director of Educational Options. And in this world, I have a number of different programs that I have oversight over. And so one of them is career technical education. So we have 62 different pathways within 13 of our industry sectors recognized by the state of California. And that just means that we have ag, we have arts, media, and entertainment, computer science courses. We still have culinary arts, business. So all of those different courses I oversee to some extent, funding, programming, ensuring that we're following the state guidelines. And then also reaching out to community to have people on our advisory committees to really tell us what do we need to be doing in those courses to get these kids ready to go into industry. And so that's career technical education, which is one of the pieces I oversee. Then we had a huge expansion in Modesto Virtual Academy. Some of you may have heard about that. If you have children in Modesto City, you probably saw this come through at one point. With distance learning, we grew our Modesto Virtual Academy, which is an independent study model. And we went from 90 kids last year to about 1,500 this year that chose to be part of Modesto Virtual Academy. So that was my big work this year so far, is developing that program, identifying, getting teachers, because we only have 3 teachers. We now have 32. So really growing that and making sure we have all the human resources as well as the technical supports within our district to offer this to our families. G230 is another program for our students that are at risk, that are behind credits. And we have expanded that program from 6 teachers to 10 teachers. Next year, we will have 12 teachers involved in that program. Looking at the landscape of education and the amount of D's and F's that we currently have, we need some additional opportunities for students to have credit recovery. And so we're offering those at each of our high schools. I'm also responsible for partnerships. And so that's how I know Trish and Felicia, is through some of the different partnerships and committees that I serve with them on. Everything from our Inspire Youth event that's coming up that we're really excited about. It's going to be incredible. To the Ag Aware, Ag Incentive, like some different ag committees as well. So I'm happy to serve on any board that is out there to really learn what industry wants, what business wants, so that we can get it incorporated into our system and get these kids with viable options for employment after high school. I also oversee adult ed. We have an adult ed day program that a lot of people don't know about, but we do have a program. It's independent study based for adults of our community. We have a CNA program within that and a welding program. Next year, I just did a reorganization of our entire alternative ed department and added some additional administrators to help with the workload that has come about just with changes, overall in education. So I have a new director coming on board, and then an admin of special projects who will be helping with some of these different programs. But adult ed is going to be one of those that we really want to connect with community and get our adults employed. So they get their high school diploma, they enter that program, and then we want to be able to connect them directly to business because that's why they're getting their diploma. We hope, it's one of the goals. So then I oversee Elliott. We have a new principal there, and she's incredible. And we're trying to rebrand Elliott. Elliott's always been kind of known as, that school. Well, Elliott actually has a lot to offer our students and our community. And we're going to work on reframing that, rebranding that, so that people know that it's a good place for kids to go. Years ago, I know there were some different conflicts that caused that reputation, different fights and things, but that's not what that school is. That school is an opportunity for kids that need something other than a comprehensive high school. And then the last thing that I could think of that I oversee is dual enrollment. And so our partnership with MJC and providing students opportunity to take college courses while they're in high school. With that, at Davis High School, we have a middle college that we're expanding, where kids are going to be able to graduate with an associate's degree or at least 30 credits if they enroll in the middle college. And so we're expanding that opportunity to multiple students as well. It's been limited, but we're definitely going to make that grow because we need those opportunities for our kids. And then I just wanted to share that, we have a website that has all of this different information on there, because I know I just talked about a lot of different things that I oversee and that we have in Modesto City Schools. But since I've stepped into this position, one piece that I've seen that is missing is we don't market our programs. I feel like a lot of people don't know that we have any of these. That's great that we have I call it a passive website. If you want to go and seek it out, you can find it. But really, we need to promote what we have in forums like this. So if any of you are part of something that, and I could obviously have a better PowerPoint than this, or whatever it would be that you would need to share what Modesto City Schools has to offer, I'd be more than willing to. I feel like we're the best kept secret. And we need to establish some additional partnerships with business and our community as a whole. So that sums it up.
So you made a comment to credit recovery for the amount of D's and F's you're seeing. Is that an uptick or different because of the pandemic year of education?
Yeah, so this year we typically, we track how many D's and F's we have at each semester, and numbers don't usually fluctuate more than a couple percentages. This year, it's been a drastic shift. Distance learning has, it's worked for some kids, but I would say for the majority of our students, it has not been the best learning platform due to various challenges. I mean, I think one of them is maturity and just wanting to engage on a screen. Our 7 through 12 students often do not turn their screens on. And so, their learning is not engaging. As a result, we've seen an uptick in our D's and F's, and we just want to be sure that we have the resources established so that we can get these kids the credits that they need to graduate from high school. And we anticipate this being a concern for probably about 2 to 3 years, just based on the fact that we have freshmen who have come in, and students have to have 230 credits to graduate from high school. If they failed their freshman year, that's 60 of their credits. So so we need to have these programs available for them.
Rachel, I think for those of us that have been in the educational world, people in business, and we often talk about, are we business or are we not? But we really, in so many ways in education, are business, because we have our clients. Our clients are the students and the families. And we have to, as you say, market, brand, and really advertise what is going on in our schools. I agree with you 100%.
So anyone else have a thought or a question? Please feel free to unmute yourself. I'll take the moment while I'm speaking and invite Kelly to introduce herself. I saw her join us a little bit ago.
Good afternoon. Hey, sorry, I jumped on a little bit late. My name is Kelly Talent, and I'm the Senior Property Manager here at Image Fair Mall.
Great, happy to have you. Okay, any other thoughts or questions? Rachel's kind of dynamic, obviously, with a lot to cover.
Yeah, sorry. I hope I wasn't overwhelming. There's a lot of different aspects to what we have. So, and my job seems to be a catch-all to some degree. And anything that's not academic typically falls in my department.
Interesting. I think you're right. I think you need to advertise it more. I didn't realize you guys offered all that. What a great resource you guys are. So.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's what I've been trying to figure out is how do we go about marketing education? And I hear that two of you here are in marketing, in the area of marketing and branding. What would your recommendation be for us as a district to really let people know that we're more than just, reading, writing, and arithmetic?
I'm not sure about that. I'll certainly think about it and get you some ideas.
Thank you.
I know that people's hands have been tied in the last year and a half because they can't reach anybody other than by Zooming. So.
Right.
But you guys have a lot of really good programs, and how do you get the kids to know that? Because not everybody's on the college thing, and you guys have so many other things for them to offer, they don't even probably know that they have that option.
Right. And you know, that's a good point, because in the last few years, well, back in the 2010s, I would say, it was everybody was going to college, you know, the No Child Left Behind Act that everybody heard about. And so we did away with actually a lot of our CTE programming, because we needed to be sure that kids had access to their foreign language and, you know, all of their A to G requirements. And there's been a shift again. As always, the pendulum, you know, goes back and forth. And so we're back into the CTE world, and we're developing more programs. Just this last year, we started a JROTC program at Bayer High School. We started a culinary arts program at Davis High School. And those are the two off the top of my head. But so we're starting to develop more. And as far as letting kids know, previously, we would have our 8th graders either come and visit, or we'd have 8th grade parent night, or we'd have our students go and visit the junior highs. But as a mother of a 13-year-old daughter, as a parent, I would have liked to have the opportunity to hear more about it, because, you know, she doesn't always come home and tell me, you know, she hears what she wants. And so I feel like we need to let the community know, we need to let parents know, and it needs to be more aggressive in nature, and less passive.
Right. We're excited to launch the Inspire Youth, Inspire Dreams platform, because that definitely became an open door opportunity for that piece in particular. I'm super excited about that.
Yes, that's been incredible.
Anyone else? All right. What are your thoughts, Deborah? Where would you like to go?
Well, I was just thinking that we always identify a speaker for the next time that we meet, but we haven't checked in a little while and asked our participants if there's a topic or something that they would like us to bring to them. So I think that might be a good question. Is there anything that, as you join us today or previously, that you would think in the future would be a nice topic to have brought to you, in addition to someone like just as Rachel, which was very informative. So thank you, Rachel. But any topics out there that you might want to have in the future?
Any other thoughts and feedback? We've never been this quiet. This is usually one of our most conversational groups.
Well, I know one of the things that the groups talked about in the past is they love the concept of networking, having the opportunity to network. And so I'm seeing a lot of head shaking with that. So that's good. And just by being here, learning about each other, that's a great opportunity. And you can also, we can make referrals to each other for that sense too. So I think that is a great aspect of one of the reasons why we're here.
I would definitely agree with Deborah on that. It's a great forum to learn about other women.
Yeah, yeah. Like for instance, Anna, your business and the way it supports women with financial. And then we have 2 women here that are in marketing and branding. I mean, it's great things to know for all of us in the future. Banking. I mean, we can go on and on with the opportunities. Yeah.
Great. Am I muted? No. Rachel, along your course, obviously you needed professional development. Is that something that you found came more organically to you? Do you feel like leading was something that was just a part of who you were, or was it more learned by doing and elevating up into the positions and roles you're at now? You're muted. You're muted.
Yes. Oh goodness, that's gonna forever be an issue. You know, and that's a great question. And I think for me, I had strong women role models in my life. You know, my mom being a teacher, my grandma being a teacher. My grandma, I still remember stories from her that she had to work in her father, this is back in the, you know, 30s, didn't believe that women needed a college education. And so she and her mother went and worked in the canneries to support her education. So I come from that kind of lineage where the women do whatever it is they need to do to get to where they want to be. But I know not everybody has that example. And I also know that through my professional life, while I've had those strong role models, I have had to find other opportunities to grow professionally and in my leadership. Often it was through workshops. You know, I would, anything that there was to sign up with, whether it was from the State Department or something my district was doing, I was always signing up for anything to learn more. I've always kind of been a lifelong learner. I get bored easy, not necessarily in this position, but in other positions, I've found them that I needed more. So I'd pursue different opportunities, but leadership is definitely an area that I think it doesn't come naturally to everyone. And so to develop that, to seek out opportunities, whether it's to get in front of other people, I think this is a great venue where, you know, you guys are all here as women supporting each other. And that in and of itself is a step towards having leadership opportunities. And speaking in front of people, that develops that confidence. So I don't know if I answered your question completely, but I definitely, and two, I think all of us as women here just need to know what kind of role we play in our community and with young women that we interact with.
Being a mentor by doing sometimes is what really benefits someone else who's wanting to reach. Anyone else have any professional development stories or pathways or evolutions you've gone through that you'd like to share?
I think I'd like to get everybody's thoughts on a subject we kind of talked on before, like transitioning. A number of women I know have been on these meetings have transitioned from completely different careers to just branched out on things of that nature. And I just want to know what it was that made you want to step out and do that. Because a lot of people have that fear of going and transitioning to something completely different, or even just within your own field. What gives you the courage, I would say, to venture out and do that? Even though I know for myself, I had a problem with expanding professionally because I was in fear of failure. And that, I think, for sometimes that happens with us professionally, we don't want to take that next step yet. So does any of you have ever felt that in your professional career as well?
Well, I think it is a common thing to fear the unknown and not be sure of, you know, what the outcome will be. But generally, if it's, you know, upon your heart and mind to do that in itself is an indication that it would probably be really important to make that change if you're feeling strongly about that. Generally, our intuition is right on with what we need to do, and given support of others, it's definitely a good idea. It's something that I did, and it doesn't change it, it doesn't make it less scary, but you know, the rewards for moving forward are huge.
So, sorry, I'm a little nervous about talking. I've never been in this meeting before. So, but I wanted to, you know, get more involved with the chamber. I actually started a hospitality staffing agency in June of 2020. So, and that had been a plan that was in place. And I thought, well, the pandemic, you know, it can't last that long. I mean, and then I'll be ready to go when things get better. Fact is you know, I am ready to go and things are getting better. So, you know, we're coming out the other side, but it was definitely a difficult road over the past year. What made me decide to, you know, start my own business? Was in human resources for over 20 years and, you know, worked for a lot of great organizations, but in human resources, at least how I view it is, we're the culture keepers, and, we have a lot of responsibility for making sure things, the mission, vision, and values of the company, play out the way that they should. And it's just a really challenging position being in organizations that don't necessarily do that well. So, I kind of said, you know what, I have my own kind of vision for what I want to create. And so I'm gonna, go out on a limb and do that. Eventually I will have employees. I would have probably by now, if not for the pandemic, but I want to create a positive work environment for whoever I work with. But I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done even in the past year without the support of a bunch of people. So that would be the underlying message I would have is, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for support when you need it. And I'm really lucky because I have a really strong support network within, I bought a franchise. So within the franchise that I bought into. So.
Quality staffing, do you mean like in catering, you need extra servers?
Restaurant, no, it's restaurant management for restaurants, hotels. I can really recruit for anything, and I come from food manufacturing. So my clients right now are, my contacts from my past life. So I can do, HR roles, finance roles, operations, production roles, marketing. I've done communications. And then also restaurant positions, general managers and assistants and things like that.
In the next couple of years, Rachel's going to have some graduates that'll be perfectly suited for your opportunities.
Yes, we have 3 culinary arts programs: Modesto High, Davis, and Downey.
Nice.
So, yeah, and our goal is to, with our capstone classes, to finally get out and actually serve in the community somewhere, for some hours, just to get that the real life experience versus the classroom experience, because it's 2 totally different things. But
Right.
A lot of them will have their Serve Safe certification, so maybe we'll have a pool for you.
Awesome.
Anyone else?
I would just add, in terms of transition and making a transition, kind of going back to what Anna said, it's that sometimes when you're thinking about it and it's on your heart and it's on your mind, you might be more prepared than you think you are. You might know more than you think you know. I think the key to any transition and making it easier, because I think every transition can be a challenge, and it's just the degree to which, how much of a challenge is it. But one of the most important things is to be surrounded by good people. And if you're surrounded by good people, then you're able to develop good working relationships, and they genuinely want to see you succeed. And if you're in that environment, then that's, I think, can make that transition a lot easier. The funny thing about my job is it changes every day. And the ironic thing about that is that I hate change. I don't embrace change. I don't prefer it. I prefer things to be the exact same. If I could wear black every day, I would. There's something about that consistency that I thrive in. And that is not the job I'm in, but that's okay, because I'm surrounded by good people, and they are genuinely invested in my success, and they want to see me succeed and help me succeed. And so that's made the transition sort of easier. I will tell you, though, that in order to get to that place where I wanted to transition, because I was like, no change, I'm good. I had to adopt a slogan. I thought a slogan would really help me. I come from a marketing background. And so my slogan, ironically, and I'll share it because it's this call and I feel like it's helpful, or it might be helpful to someone else, even though it's going to make me look like a total idiot. My slogan was fail big. That was it. Fail big. And if you're not swinging for the fences, what are you doing?
Mhm.
And it's sort of an oversimplification of it, but I had to boil it down to that to remind myself, because I think we get sort of mired in, well, what if this doesn't work out, or what if that doesn't work out? And in my mind, I'm like 2 years down the road on today's project for all the bad things that could happen that I didn't do right in today's project. Well, we don't know what tomorrow is or what tomorrow will bring, and so I had to internally just adopt that fail big attitude, because that allowed me to go, it's okay. It is okay. I'm surrounded by good people. I have good partners. I'll work it out. I'm more intelligent than I give myself credit for, and so that those two pieces is just sort of adopting that kind of internal slogan for myself, and just making sure that I'm surrounded by good people, and where I was going, I was surrounded by good people, helped me to sort of transition.
That's great. Thank you, Kelly. I really, really like that. Fail big. I think in professionals, we are always afraid of, like you said, we're going to fail. And that reminds me of something someone mentioned to me, is failure equals success. Because when you fail, you get to learn and you get to adapt and you get to change in order for you to be successful the next time. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, exactly. And I think when you try a lot of things, you're not going to be perfect at every single thing, but you'll, like you said, you'll learn from each individual thing, and you'll get closer to what it is that you're shooting for and striving for. And there's a lot to be learned from failure. I mean, when I went to school at UOP, I'll never forget the data programming class that I took, because I got an F. And I was thrilled that I got an F, because that means that I got 40% of that material. And by God, I did not have 40% of that information going into that class. So, a little TMI there for you, but there's something to be gained from everything. And I'm a firm believer in that. So.
I agree. Mandisa had shared, definitely success is gained through learned mistakes. Very much so. And I think once you get to a certain point in your life, that just becomes a reality of it, because you have life experiences. When you're young, you have a more of a fear of failure than you do when you're more seasoned, and you're like, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen.
It just said she would hit these points of needing to look for something else. Either she got bored or she developed a new goal. I've sort of been on the other side of that. Not that I didn't have goals, but I was always one that was kind of being pushed in pathways or in directions. And it's a choice. Do you say yes or no in those moments? And I always would step back and say, kind of a trust your gut person. Didn't feel right, then know that. But if you have no true reason to say no to it, then it's there for a reason. And so that tended to be what's pushed me down my path often, way more often than not, actually. It's hard to do that too when you're stepping into something unknown. Why am I trusting my gut now? Because I don't have experience here, but there's a reason things happen in general, I believe.
For me personally, the different pathways that I've started on and gained through, I see it more as an add-on. Like Rachel said, not one person that kind of gets bored in a way, but more and so that I like having a change in pace, like not being stuck in routine or feeling stuck. And, I've been in those points and times where, I felt kind of stuck. And those are the times when you question yourself, can I see myself doing this again in 5 years or in 10 years? And I come to the point where I can't really see myself doing that. And as you move on and you go through your life experiences, you change as a person, and your interests change when you change as a person. So my interests have been changing, and it's not that I'm changing pathways, it's that I'm adding on those foundations that I already have. So I started in child development, figured out, what, I want to do more with parents. I switched to psychology. Okay, now I'm working with human behavior, how things are more developed throughout the human development in general. And then I found out about doulas, and then I became a mom myself, and that pushed me towards more of the motherhood and perinatal development. And that's when I heard about doulas and I looked more into it, that's when I was like, that's my calling. That's what I want to do right there. I've worked with young children for the last 7 years. I want to work with families. This is the capacity that I want to do with those families, and just gaining more information and learning what's out there, because there's so many avenues out there that you've never heard of, because in your community, you may be the first person that is searching for that information. You may not have that resource inside your area. And when you hear that word and you look it up and you're like, why isn't that in my area? And they have in other states or in, the other part of California, but why isn't it in my area? So if you're not the person, if you have a question, you don't go out looking for it, then you wouldn't know, because in your own community, there wasn't that avenue that anyone else explored, or, they were afraid, or they didn't have the resources, they didn't know where to look. And you're the person that went out there and you looked, and now you're going to be that person in your community that's going to provide those services for those families. So I just look at it as an add-on to the foundations that I already have.
I mean, the person you needed at a given time is a part of that too. I know Anna feels that way, and where she's at in her life right now. We were just talking about that yesterday.
For sure.
Well, and I appreciate what Mandisa said, in the fact that our community kind of dictates what we know is available. And I think sometimes, I just spoke to it, I felt like I had to either go the attorney route or the education route, because that's all I knew. And here I am. I obviously took a comfortable road because I knew the road. And so I always admire people that step outside of the known path. Even when I got to administration, I didn't realize, because Garrison has a high special ed population, I didn't even know that some of those positions existed. And yet I had been in education my whole life. I didn't know what a BCBA was. I knew what a speech therapist was, but there's a SELPA component. And so I didn't know any of that. So I think expanding horizons and getting out of the comfort zone can be very difficult. And as women, I think as I was saying before, I feel like we kind of, at least I know in my experience, I'm the stationary one. I'm in my family. I'm the one that is the comforter, is the one that the kids always call, so I have to stay within my comfort zone so that I can provide those resources to other people. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, I think as women, to go out and go outside of the comfort zone can be very difficult sometimes. And that's been a challenge for me. I may have moved into different positions, but they were known positions. So like Trish was saying, going into something she didn't know, or Kelly, and going into an environment where, fail big, because you just don't know what's going to be coming at you, and it's constant change. And that helps us grow as people, women, and professionally and personally.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, very true. Any other?
We were talking about students earlier, just like what you said, Rachel, is that when I graduated, throughout elementary, high school, I always knew I wanted to work in education. Like, I want to be a teacher. I love working with students. I'm the oldest out of 6 siblings. Like, I just love taking care of children and being there with kids. And I just loved academics itself. I'm one of the academical type. But then when it came to start applying to colleges and looking at liberal arts, and then all of a sudden I hit the child development section, like, oh, what is this? I never heard of it. But, I know there was a child development center on our high school campus. I took that as an elective. I was working with the toddlers on the high school campus, but I didn't know about child development until I started looking through that course catalog and seeing, what are the other things that I could take, and reading those course descriptions for the different classes and seeing what I would gain as my knowledge and part of my education. That's when I made the switch to child development, just, looking through that. You don't really have a course in high school that tells, these are the different things that you could do, or like career development, like what's out there, how do they break it down? And so I look at those course descriptions and then go into child development and bring it on from there. But like you said, how you summed it up so well is, you're kind of where what's in your community is the jobs that you see and the jobs that you know. So it's kind of hard states learning what's outside the box unless you had those curious questions and you went out there looking for it.
So the Business and Education Committee is working on providing that career exploration to our students, because you're right. Right now, we don't have anything like that in the education world that's a requirement. And if you take a CTE class, there is a component where you explore professions within that CTE pathway. But the Inspire Youth event that Trish and Felicia have been working on in the Education Committee, that's what that's focused on, is providing that outside perspective for our 6th graders to start off with. And then hopefully, not hopefully, we will have a continuum for 8th grade, high school and beyond. But then that way, hopefully we can reach some kids and provide them with those opportunities of seeing something outside their home or their parents or, their community. So that's a good point, that in high school, you didn't have that opportunity. We need that. We need that for all of our kids.
College bound or not, we really want to spark interest in what's available right here, whether they go away to school or not, come back and be a part of enriching the community they came from. So great opportunity. Any other thoughts anyone would like to share? Well, I personally am super thrilled to see several of you come back again, and a couple new faces each time. These are all open to the public, whether you're a member or not. Membership's always an option. There's a lot we can do to support you in other ways as a member, but just having you partner with us and be a part of the conversation and making a difference and mentoring and networking with one another is going to get the job done for all of us here and around us in our community. So I appreciate all of your time joining us today. If you want more information, if you want to share, be part of a highlight story at some point, let Felicia know. She's tracking a list for those. We're not looking to have cookie cutter conversations here. We want each one to be unique and rich and spark new conversation, new ideas and new thoughts for all of us. That's kind of where inspiration comes from. So super excited for that. And Rachel, really appreciate your time today, and PowerPoint and all that. Yeah, you got a lot to wrap into there. You do a few things I didn't even realize, and I didn't know you were a buyer. You might have been there when my daughter was. I don't remember your name at that time, but time flies, right?
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. It was very enriching just to hear your story, where you came from and all the different experiences you had professionally. I'd like to mention too that Miss Madhu will be our speaker for next month. She'll be highlighting her journey and her career, and then we'll have another kind of open-ended discussion as well for next month. So looking forward to that as well.
And watch for our e-blasts. If you're not getting them, check our website. We've got this Women in Business. We have Rising Professionals we're building on. We have a Tech Connect network that we're working on. We have our Stanislaus Green team and a whole California Green Business Network sustainability program to help businesses get certified on the state platform. We have a regular economic development, government relations council. If you can't find a niche that makes sense for you, we'll make one up for you. So let us know if we're missing one, and we're happy to develop it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting everyone.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you
Nice
all.
evening.